How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Infinite Sports. I'm your host, Kenneth Gruenfelder. Hope everybody had a very good Thanksgiving, had a very good weekend. We're back to talk NFL. Another week has come and gone, and we're going to talk about the latest week in the NFL season, NFL Week 13. So we're nearing the end here. Our playoffs are coming up. We got one more month left in the NFL season. Regular season, I should say, and then it's playoffs. But there's still a lot of things that have to be decided with the wild cards, divisions. It's going to be a exciting finish to this season. But I want to talk about right now because right now where we are in the NFL season, you look at the landscape of the league, and there's a lot of parity. There's a lot of parity. There is no clear-cut favorite at this moment. Now, there might be some teams that I look at and say, that's the team right there that I think is going to win the whole thing that I picked before the season. But teams could slip up and end up losing. And we saw this past weekend, there were a lot of upsets or teams that, played close to getting to an upset and fell a little bit short. We saw the Commanders almost upset the Broncos on Sunday night in overtime. They were a 2-point conversion shy of doing so and handing the Broncos their third loss of the season, but that did not happen. And we saw to start the weekend, all the underdogs won on Thanksgiving. We saw an underdog win on Black Friday. Now, not to say that some of the underdogs in those games, it was like, wow, I didn't see that coming. But they were underdogs. On Thanksgiving, the underdogs, it was the underdogs to start the week. And that progressed into the weekend. And now we're at a point where we're like, who is the best team in the NFL right now? Because to me, I still think the best team is the LA Rams. I still believe that is the team to beat, even though they just got beaten by the Carolina Panthers in some bad weather. But the Panthers, they played well. Bryce Young played well. He had a big fourth down conversion to Tetairoa McMillan that ended up being a touchdown pass that put the Panthers up late. And that Panthers defense, they got to Matthew Stafford, and Matthew Stafford did something that he really hasn't done, and that's turn the ball over. Some interceptions. One of them was a pick six, and also a fumble late in the game helped the Panthers win. Panthers got contributions from Chuba Hubbard. He had a big game on Sunday with a touchdown. Panthers, they won that game. They got the win. They got a huge win because they're still trying to keep up with the Buccaneers now in the NFC South. And it's amazing because you look at the Panthers, you look at some of their wins this season, and then you take a look at some of their losses this season. You just can't figure them out because they beat the Rams this season, right? I know we'll talk about the Cowboys, but they beat the Cowboys. Some of these games, and I'm trying to think of who else on the schedule that they beat. But some of these teams, you didn't expect. Some of these games you didn't expect them to win, and they did just that. Rams especially. I did not see that coming. Now they were a heavy underdog. I obviously took the Rams in the game to win and cover, but I thought that. I wouldn't have surprised me if the Panthers would have covered because I don't think the Panthers are an awful team. Panthers are 7-6, but yeah, they also beat the Packers in Lambeau. That was the other game too that you didn't see coming. But yeah, they've lost to the Saints. They're a weird team to figure out. But you got to give them credit; they're in the thick of it right now. And they have a good chance to win this division. They do because they play the Buccaneers twice, and I think those games could go either way. Those games are both toss-ups. The Bucs, they swept them last year, but the Panthers could definitely change the tides because the Bucs, although they finally picked up a win on Sunday, they still don't look great to me because the other thing is they're not healthy. Baker's playing hurt right now, and I still don't really trust that Buccaneers defense, but the Bucs and the Panthers, it's going to be a fight to the finish. And the Bucs could be getting some reinforcements back. Jalen McMillan and Mike Evans Both look like they're on the way back, so they can have a healthy receiving core. Bucky Irving made his return, scored a touchdown, so that was huge. So we'll see, but that's going to be a division to keep an eye on. But yeah, the Panthers, they're a weird team to figure out, but they could find themselves in the postseason. But like I said, having said that, Panthers knocking off the Rams, I still feel good about the Rams. Okay, you look at the landscape of the NFL. Look, there's no powerhouse. Every team is going to have those bad games. I mean, the Rams were due for a bad game at some point, and it happened. It happened here. And, they've also had, some other bad losses this year, or really all of their losses. I mean, you look at the Eagles, they were up big in that, and they let the Eagles come back and win that game. And they had a chance to kick the game-winning field goal, and the Eagles blocked that and returned it for a touchdown. And then also the 49ers, who were shorthanded on that Thursday night. They beat the Rams in overtime, and the Rams turned the ball over. So, yeah, they've had bad losses this year. But I think the defense is one of the league's best. And Matthew Stafford, I know, coming off of a rough game, but he's had a great season. You got two number one wide receivers in Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams, who keep scoring touchdown passes. Had touchdown receptions, 2 more on Sunday. You got a nice duo with Kyron Williams, who got hurt but came back into the game, and Blake Corum, although I know that's upset some people when it comes to fantasy, including myself. But the Rams are still a good team. But the crazy thing is now, is because the Rams lost, now the Bears have the number 1 seed. So how about that in the NFC? I mean, good for the Bears, though, and their fan base, because they have been... I mean, I know 2018, they had that season where they finished in first place, they made the playoffs, but then you had the double doink happen. But it seems like the Bears finally found the right people. Looks like they found the quarterback finally, and they found the right head coach, who was going nuts after the game, taking his shirt off, celebrating with the team. Ben Johnson looks like the real deal with the Bears. I still have my concerns with the Bears. I think I have my concerns with, you can find concerns with every team. But the Bears right now are in a prime position to most certainly make the playoffs. Now, they could maybe slip up here at the end and, fall out of the number 1 seed. I don't think they're going to hold on to that. But they look like they're going to make the playoffs. And they're going to be a dangerous team because we saw on Friday, they went into Philly to take on the Eagles, and they just pounded the rock. They had 2 running backs rush for over 100 yards, which has not happened in a game for the Bears since 1985. And do you remember what happened in 1985? The Bears won the Super Bowl. Now, they had an all-time defense. That's really why they won the Super Bowl. But they don't have that this time around. But the Bears, they did a great job. I think they also benefited from the fact that the Eagles just are kind of out of sorts right now, because now the Eagles have dropped 2 straight. They lost to Dallas, and now you lose to the Bears here. The Eagles don't look right, but you know what? Listen, the Bears took advantage of it, and they ran the football. They ran the ball for almost 300 yards with both Kyle Monangai and DeAndre Swift, who both had touchdowns in this game. Caleb Williams didn't have his best game, but he made some nice throws. Did have an interception, which I thought was the turning point in the second half when he turned the ball over. I thought that was going to lead to the Eagles coming back and winning that game, but that just didn't happen. But he had that nice touchdown pass to Cole Kmet. Bears got the win. And the Eagles just did not look good. Jalen Hurts did not look good. They continue to struggle running the football. Hey, A.J. Brown got it going, had a couple of touchdowns. But now you have Eagles fans finding the address of their offensive coordinator, Kevin Patullo, and throwing stuff at his house. I mean, Eagles fans are not handling this well. And to be honest, no sympathy. Now, you could say, well, because I'm a Giant fan, but I root for the Giants, who last night, I mean, they just did not show up against the Patriots. But for the Eagles fans, look, you want to see your team do well, obviously. But you're literally just coming off of a Super Bowl win. You've been to the Super Bowl now twice in the last 5 years. And you're going crazy over the team right now when they're still in first place. They're still what, 8-4? They still control their own destiny. And they have the players to get it right. But yeah, coaching, it seems like it's an issue. Because it was on the offense why they lost that game. I mean, again, Hurts had a bad interception as well. You can't run the football. It's a problem. Can they get it right? Sure, they can. But you also have that thought of, hey, this is shades of 2023 when they just collapsed. And then they got destroyed by the Buccaneers in the playoffs. And they were one and done. Because that can also happen. But I still think this is still a team that you shouldn't give up on yet because there's still time to correct this. But it's a problem. I mean, last year, Saquon Barkley had this out-of-this-world season. And he hasn't really been that same player. Now, I think part of that is because the offensive line is not what it was last year. And that's a problem because that's screwing up the running game, and I think that's also screwing up the passing game. You know, you're rattling your quarterback. You know, finally, A.J. Brown has this big game, and it wasn't enough. Was not enough. So, Eagles got problems right now. And don't look now, but Cowboys are getting themselves back in the conversation because they're coming off of a big win over the Chiefs. So they have now defeated the NFC representative of the Super Bowl last year, who were the eventual champs. And then you also knocked off the AFC representative in the Super Bowl last year. Back-to-back weeks. Cowboys look good. Cowboys look good. Their offense looks good. What were they missing last year on offense? They were missing a running game. And obviously, Dak Prescott got hurt. But with Dak healthy prior to his injury last year, they were missing a running game. And they were missing a number 2 wide receiver. And before the season started, they went out and they got Javonte Williams. And they signed Miles Sanders too. But Javonte Williams has done really well for them. And George Pickens has been unbelievable getting him. And the Cowboys should definitely extend him. Even though, again, that would be another guy on offense that they extend. But still, they got to keep George Pickens. Because him and CeeDee Lamb together, deadly combination. And Dak's had a great season. The offense has been good. Offense, not just good, it's been great. But now what the Cowboys did, they went out, they made a couple of trades, and they signed some players. They brought in I honestly forgot they had Jadeveon Clowney. They bring him in. They traded for Quinnen Williams. They traded for Logan Wilson, and all of a sudden, this defense is playing better. And now you got the Lions on Thursday. Lions don't look like the same team. Cowboys can win that. So they could definitely make a run. They got Washington again. They got the Giants again. Like they got some they got some very winnable games coming up on the schedule. And right now they could beat anybody. I mean, they just beat the 2 teams that played in the Super Bowl last year. So they could beat anybody. Now, I still think they're going to come up short. I think they're going to come up short. I don't think the Eagles are going to completely collapse where like the Cowboys are going to find themselves with a chance to win the division. And I just think it's going to be tough making the wild card because I think, you're going to have to pass the 49ers. You already lost to the Panthers, so that doesn't help you. The Lions, that'll definitely help. If you beat the Lions, that'll help. But I just think there's too many teams that they're going to have to leapfrog to get in, so I think they're going to fall just short. But they have turned it around. They've definitely turned it around. And they're going to be a dangerous team down the stretch. And if they get in, they're going to be a dangerous team to face. And they've had a lot going on. And they've kind of rallied around, what happened with their teammate. And they're kind of using that as fuel. But yeah, they're playing some good football right now, and they have to be recognized for that. So we'll see if they. They could definitely win out. That's not out of the question. It's just you're going to have to rely on other teams losing so you can get in. Like I don't think they're going to catch up to the I mean maybe the 49ers slip up, but it's going to be hard to keep up with them or catch up to them. And like I said, you already lost to the Panthers and you also have the Lions. So we'll see what happens there, but Cowboys coming off of a win over the Chiefs, that was big. And again, the Eagles prior to that. But yeah, the Chiefs, man, 6-6, they're on the outside looking in. And it's amazing. And I remember going back and forth with the thought of, is this going to be the year where the Chiefs don't win the division, don't get to the AFC Championship game? Now, at first, because when we went over teams off seasons, when I had Dami on the show, and I said, could this be the year that happens? I said, I'm not so sure. But then, when we did predictions with Ben prior to the season, I said, you know what? I'm not taking them to win their division either. So I went with the Denver Broncos. And look at that. So, listen, I don't always get things right, and it's not over yet. But the Broncos right now are in the driver's seat to win that division. And the Chiefs right now, not only, they might not make the AFC. I don't think they're going to make it even if they make the playoffs. But then they might not even make the playoffs at all. I think there's definitely going to be a lot of changes more so to the roster. Kind of retooling the roster if they miss the playoffs. Because the Chiefs I still think are a good team because they have Patrick Mahomes, they have Andy Reid. But there's definitely some retooling, some revamping that they're going to have to do. On the defensive side of the ball, I think they're definitely going to need to go out and address the running back position because they don't run the football that well. Isaiah Pacheco is not the same player. I think the injuries over the last couple of seasons have kind of caught up. And look, Kareem Hunt, I think, could still play, but I think he's more of a guy that you bring in for a change of pace. And yeah, he's still good at the goal line, but he should not be your every down running back, your 3-down running back. That's, and they brought back Clyde Edwards-Helaire. They have to go and maybe they get it through the draft, but they have to address the running back position. I think obviously you have a good receiving core with Rashee Rice being back, and you have Xavier Worthy, you have Hollywood Brown. Could you go and get another receiver? Sure. I don't know what the deal is with Travis Kelce, if this is going to be it. Kelce, I think, has had a good year. He's definitely proved the doubters wrong, including myself, because after last year I thought he was done. But he's definitely silenced me when it comes to that. And listen, he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. So, obviously, he had something to say about it. And, I think he's done good. I think he's had a good year. He's still a red zone threat. He still gets those big catches when they need him to. It's just that Super Bowl performance. It looked like he just was not. His head was just not in the game. So, but yeah, I think the offense has been good. It's just the defense. The defense is not the same. You got guys on that side of the ball getting old. I just think they need some retooling. And I think if they do that, they could be right back to where they always are. Because Patrick Mahomes, I think, is having a very good year. He was making some big plays. He hit Kelce on that 4th down for the touchdown. And then, again, I think, what was it, Hollywood Brown who caught the touchdown in the back of the end zone? And he's still making amazing plays. It's just needs a little bit more help. And I think I think the Chiefs are a well enough organization where they can figure it out, and they'll be back to being who they usually are. But it's division is going to be tough, though. As you could see, they're in 3rd place. This is not the same division. It's not a cakewalk. Outside of the Raiders, excluding the Raiders, Broncos are not going anywhere, and the Chargers are not going anywhere either. So, yeah, the Chiefs they can get themselves back on their feet, but it's going to be with stiffer competition in that division from here on out. So, yeah, I didn't expect the Chiefs to be 500 at this point in the season and on the outside looking in, but that's where we are right now. But it's still right in front of them. You went out, you got a good shot at making it, but we'll see. We shall see. Packers getting a huge win over the Lions on Thursday. I took the Lions in the game. Again, all the underdogs, not only did they cover, they won. So the Packers were an underdog. They ended up winning. Jordan Love plays very well on Thanksgiving. Lions defense, they got problems. Amon-Ra St. Brown got hurt early on in the game, like 2 or 3 plays in on the first drive. He was out. Jameson Williams ended up having a big game. But that Packers defense, they got the Jared Goff. The Packers had their way. I mean, Jordan Love had a couple of fourth down throws. I mean, they went for it on fourth down late in the game to ice it. And if you don't get that, you give the Lions great field position to go down and get a touchdown and win the game, potentially. But Jordan Love made some really good throws in this game to Christian Watson for a touchdown. Dontavian Wicks had a great touchdown early on in the game, and he was responsible for the first down catch late on fourth down. He had a breakout game, had a couple of touchdowns in this game. But yeah, getting Christian Watson back was huge for them. Josh Jacobs had a couple of big runs, but he didn't have a huge game on the ground. But the Packers moved the ball pretty much the whole time on the Lions. They really didn't punt this game. But yeah, Lions losing Amon-Ra St. Brown, that was a huge loss. And the Lions really couldn't run the football on the Packers. Jahmyr Gibbs did not have a great game, but that's a credit to the Packers defense. And what I said on Thanksgiving, I said they got to put the ball in Jordan Love's hands, not be conservative, let him air it out, let him make plays. And that's what he did. And that just shows you what the Packers are capable of doing. Now, you could also say the Lions' defense is not good and that the Packers' offense, takes advantage of bad defenses. Okay. But you still got to give them credit. They went on and did, because look at how the Packers' offense has looked in recent weeks. It made you think like, yeah, it's probably going to be more of the same. But, division rivals are different. You know these teams well, and the Packers exploited that Lions defense, and they played well. And this sets up now the battle for first place. You got the Bears and the Packers next week. How about that? Excited for that game. And then you had Joe Burrow come back, and was rusty early on, but definitely looked better as the game went on. Hit Jamar Chase down the sideline on a deep throw. Tanner Hudson made a nice one-handed catch for a touchdown. The Bengals also benefited from more Ravens turnovers. Lamar Jackson continues to look poor since he's come back from injury. He doesn't look right. He's playing hurt. He's playing hurt right now. And the Ravens, they continue to slide. Derrick Henry had a rushing touchdown early on. You thought, okay, I guess the Ravens are going to blow him out. But that did not happen. Evan McPherson hit a ton of field goals. If you had him in fantasy, good for you, because he did not miss. He was money on Thursday. But yeah, now all of a sudden, with the way the AFC North looks, you think, could the Bengals run the table and win this thing? Because both teams right now that are ahead of them, the Steelers and the Ravens, don't look good. It's more so the Steelers. I think the Steelers look worse than the Ravens, especially on offense. Actually, you could say for both offense and defense, because they had the Bills ran for over 200 yards against them. They had their way with their defense. But yeah, the Bengals, they did it last year. They ran the table. They came up short, but you can't afford a slip up. If they can win out, maybe you got a shot. But really, your only pathway is through the division. It's not going to be through the wild card. It's going to be through the division. But they got Buffalo on the schedule. They got the Ravens again. So if you somehow win those 2 games, their schedule lightens up after that. And if you remember, they went into Buffalo in the playoffs a few years ago and they won. And the Bills, listen, like Josh Allen is going to be a problem for that Bengals defense, but Joe Burrow and that offense is going to be a problem for that Bills defense. And if they get T. Higgins back because he was out with the concussion, yeah, it's gonna be quite the game. Looking forward to that game as well. So yeah, we talked about Thanksgiving games. We talked about the Black Friday game. We talked about the Rams Panthers game. Like I said, the Bucks picked up a win. The Sunday night game, look, got dicey. Also, the Colts, they continue to slide. They lose again to the Texans, who have the number one ranked defense. Texans did just enough to get the win, and all of a sudden, they're back in the conversation. They started off the season 0-3. Now they're 7-5. Don't count them out yet. Don't count them out just yet. They don't play the Jaguars anymore, so they got to hope that the Jaguars lose at some point and they gain a game on them. But the Jaguars got the Colts twice. They got the Broncos. They got the Titans and the Jets. That's what they have left. And then for the Texans, they have the Chiefs coming up. That's a big game. They got the Cardinals, the Raiders, the Chargers, who they beat in the playoffs last year, and the Colts to finish up the year. So that could come down to the AFC South can come down to that game potentially. I think the Colts have a chance to miss the playoffs. I really do, because the games they have left, they got the Jaguars twice, they got the Seahawks and the 49ers, and then they got the Texans. They could I don't want to say very easily, but they could lose all those games. Those are going to be tough games. And that would be quite the story. I mean, because you look at their schedule early on. You had the Titans twice. You had the Dolphins, you had the Raiders, the Cardinals. I mean, they did beat the Broncos, and they were in it against the Rams, if not for A.D. Mitchell dropping that touchdown, and that ended up being a touchback. But yeah, I mean, a lot of the teams they beat not very good. So now they're playing better competition late, and on top of that, your quarterback is not 100%. So that could be a problem. That could be a problem. But yeah, so they're 8-4, and the Jaguars are 8-4, and they'll be playing each other this week. Jaguars Colts. So that's a battle for first place. And then also the Seahawks. I think they're one of the best teams in the NFL. But yeah, they were all over the Vikings. Completely shut out the Vikings, 26-0. Max Brosmer got the start instead of J.J. McCarthy. Had a horrible pick six. I think he had 3 or 4 interceptions in the game. I mean, that just the Vikings. It's not looking good. It is not looking good, and that decision to let Sam Darnold and Daniel Jones go. Now, I saw on social media that maybe they try to get Daniel Jones back. But yeah, it's not looking good for the Vikings right now. And Justin Jefferson, 2 catches. He was a non-factor. I mean, remember what this team looked like last year? It's amazing how it looks now, because all the praise that we all gave Kevin O'Connell, that anybody can succeed in this system, well, not everybody can, because they've had 3 quarterbacks play this year, and none of them have really lived up. And you got so many weapons around you. And that's why I had the Vikings winning the division, because I trusted the system. I thought that whoever stepped in could succeed. It's not the case. It's not the case right now. So they're going to miss the playoffs. You're going to see 3, definitely 2. You could see 3 NFC North teams make the playoffs, but it's not going to be 4. It's not going to be 4. I definitely thought that was a bit of a stretch, but I took a swing at it. If 3 out of 4 make it, all right. I definitely should have had Seattle making the playoffs. And I said Seattle was going to be good, but I thought they'd still be on the outside looking in. Because the Vikings, I liked the Vikings better going into the year. But Vikings could have used Sam Darnold, that's for sure, or Daniel Jones. They definitely could have used one of them. That's not the case, though. But yeah, I did bring it up briefly, but the Bills knocked off the Steelers. Wasn't really much of a game, 26-7. Both teams early on, it was just who's going to score first. The Steelers eventually scored first. Touchdown by Jalen Warren, but that was it. The Bills came out in the second half. They sacked Aaron Rodgers, knocked the ball out, a scoop and score for a touchdown. Then Rodgers left the game briefly, came back in, and Mason Rudolph threw a pick in between that. And the Bills just ran the football all over the Steelers' defense. And you had Steeler fans booing during Renegade. And you had Fire Tomlin chants. So it's ugly in Pittsburgh right now. And you also have Aaron Rodgers, talking about how receivers got to, attend the meetings and make sure they run the right routes. And you got all of social media reacting to that. It's not looking good for the Steelers. And look, because Mike Tomlin has never had a losing season, I just penciled the Steelers and I said they'll find a way to make it. I don't think they're making the playoffs. I don't. The way the defense looks, and I've been more surprised with how the defense has looked more than anything else, because defense is usually a strength. But TJ Watt is not having the season that you would expect him to. I mean, he's had his moments. The sack of Caleb Williams, to pass his brother in career sacks. Also, when the Steelers were all over the Colts and getting turnovers. But he's not. The consistency is not there, and this defense has a lot of older players on that side. They got a lot of older players on the offensive side of the ball, including their quarterback. And it's just teams are running the football down their throat. They don't have any answers for it, and the offense just it's not good. It's not good, and I don't want to point the fingers at one individual. I'm not going to point at the offense and say, yeah, it's all on the quarterback, even though Aaron Rodgers is not playing well and really hasn't played well for a while, even prior to the injury, the wrist injury, and he's trying to protect himself. But, yeah, it's just, you got DK Metcalf, you got two young wide receivers that are inexperienced, and then you have a bunch of tight ends that you just really don't use properly, and they don't really run the football that well, even though Jalen Warren shows that he can. Maybe they don't use him enough, but it's not a great offense. It's not. And for Aaron Rodgers, who's 41 years old, actually, it's his birthday today, I'm pretty sure. So now he's 42. So it's just, you needed to surround him with, everything had to be perfect for Aaron Rodgers going to the Steelers. But going into this season, you look at the offensive line. You think the offensive line is a top 10 unit? I don't think so. Do you think that the pass catchers, you think that's top 10? No. And now you got everybody saying they made a mistake trading George Pickens. Yeah, because look at how George Pickens is doing. But if George Pickens was still in the Steelers, I don't think he's producing like how he is in Dallas. I think he's a better fit in Dallas than he is in Pittsburgh. So, yeah, it's more than just one individual. And I think it's really setting in now that it's time for a change. And I think at the end of the year, depending on what happens, I think the Steelers and Mike Tomlin, I think the best thing for them is to part ways. And Mike Tomlin, fresh start for him, and a fresh start for the Steelers, because it's time. It's time. I think that really set in, especially on Sunday, because that was ugly. That was ugly to watch. And for Aaron Rodgers, like I said, everything had to be perfect. The offensive line, the weapons, it worked for Brady and it worked for Stafford because you had elite level players around you. Brady had, obviously you got Gronk and Leonard Fournette, but they went and drafted a left tackle. They had this solid offensive line for Brady. You had Gronk, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. It worked. And also the Bucs defense was very good and was a big part in why they won the Super Bowl that year. Stafford had Cooper Kupp, who went on and won the Triple Crown. I mean, running game wasn't that great the year they won the Super Bowl because that was before Kyron Williams, but you had Cooper Kupp, right? They went and they traded for Odell Beckham Jr. when he was still pretty good. Not the Odell from when he made the catch, but still, I mean, he was on his way to winning Super Bowl MVP if he didn't get hurt in the Super Bowl. And the offensive line was good, and you had Aaron Donald, and you had Von Miller. They traded for Von Miller. You had Jalen Ramsey. Well, Aaron Rodgers has Jalen Ramsey now, but 4 years later. Like, it worked. And then, I mean, same thing with Peyton Manning. They had a very good offense. I mean, the last year, I mean, it was all on their defense, but, I mean, 2012 to 2013, I mean, you had Demaryius Thomas, you had Eric Decker, you had Wes Welker, you had Emmanuel Sanders, and the offensive line was good. Running game, with no Sean Moreno, yeah, it was fine, right? But it's just with Aaron Rodgers at this point in his career, it's like obviously his whole career he's looking to have a good tight end, and they give him 3 tight ends, and Pat Freiermuth is like a non-factor, and it's just like these young receivers that they have, like that's the other thing too. Like these are veteran teams, like that these quarterbacks ended up with. And well, in certain positions, like the Steelers are a veteran team, but you got Calvin Austin, you got Roman Wilson, DK Metcalf. There's no one really. There's nobody else in that receiving room that's a veteran that you're gonna rely upon. I mean, they brought in MVS and they haven't used him. Now, I'm not saying MVS is going to come in and change the whole offense, but they brought him in and they haven't used him. So yeah, it's tough. Like when Rodgers went to the Steelers, like yeah, I mean, I think he could do okay with the Steelers. I think they could make the playoffs, and if he plays well enough, maybe they could win a playoff game. But as the season has gone on, this team might not make the playoffs at all. And could this be the end for Aaron Rodgers? I think so. Like a couple years ago, he tore his Achilles. Last year, got off to a 2-1 start with the Jets, but then things fell apart and unraveled, and the coach got fired, and it was a mess there. And then you come over here and you get off to a good start, and I kept saying just keep stacking those wins, and then you get to a certain point in the year and he gets hurt, and now you could still win, but it's just I don't think it's happening. I think the Steelers, maybe you win another game or two, maybe you go 8-9, but it's not going to be good enough to make the playoffs. It's not. So, and it's just, again, Rodgers got hurt, and now he's hurt again. Now you're just like counting down the weeks to just get done with the season because I don't think I don't really think there's going to be teams out there that are going to be knocking on his door that are going to be a fit that he's going to want to keep playing. I think the best spot for him would have been the Vikings but the Vikings' offensive line has not been great this year, so he would have had a problem with that. But you would have had the play calling, you would have had the requisite weapons where he could have did something. Like I think those pass catchers could have used a guy like Aaron Rodgers right now. And if the offensive line was obviously healthy. But that didn't happen. And I'm not gonna fault the Vikings for that. I mean, look, the 40-year-old quarterback. Their options, they should have went and brought back either Sam Darnold or Daniel Jones. That's what they should have did. But instead, they put all their eggs in the J.J. McCarthy basket, and you bring in Carson Wentz, and it just now you're starting Max Brosmer. So But yeah, and for me, someone who's grown up watching Aaron Rodgers over these last 10 plus years, just watching how he's playing right now. And again, I'm not going to say it's all on him, but it's just it's you don't like seeing these guys that you've watched struggle the way they are. That's what's happening right now. And if this is how he goes out, it's not going to be the best, but I think that's what should happen after this year is that he should retire. I think because he's only getting older, and I just don't think there's going to be a lot of opportunities out there if he wants to continue to play. Now, obviously, there could be a case where if an injury happens, someone calls later in the season and says, hey, we could use you. And maybe he becomes Joe Flacco. Because Joe Flacco wants to keep playing. But I don't know if he's interested in doing that. So, it's speculation, but I just think the way things are going right now, the way things are with the Steelers right now, Aaron Rodgers, this could be it. This could be it for him and his playing career, and this could be it for Mike Tomlin in Pittsburgh. So, and I think Steeler fans, they're ready to go in a different direction. So there's that, and then you have the Giants and Patriots. Giants were non-competitive from the start. You had something in their games transpire that I've never seen before. A kicker just not even kick the ball, just go to kick it, and he just ends up just coming up short on the kick, just ends up getting his foot caught in the ground. Doesn't even make contact with the ball. Would have cut the deficit to 7. Never seen that. Then you have the Giants later in the game. It's 4th and 1, and they decide to punt. When at that point, it's like, what do you have to lose? You're 2 and 10. And the Patriots, they just made everything look easy. Drake May, everything was pitch and catch. You would have thought there was nobody on the field, and Drake May is just practicing with his receivers. So anybody that thought Mike Kafka has a shot to be the head coach next year, not happening. It's not happening. And Joe Shane, the GM, he could be on his way out too. And Jackson Dart continues to take hits. I mean, there was that one where he scrambled, and it was a legal hit, but he got crushed. He went flying out of bounds, getting hit. He's got to be more careful, or he is going to have a short career. And I think he's one of the few players that, and I don't want to say that some of the players weren't trying, but when you see guys are just running free wide open, like Hunter Henry had a wide open touchdown catch and it got called back. I forget why, illegal formation. But I mean, the effort on a lot of these plays, I mean, just guys being that open, you question the effort of the players. And on top of that, Abdul Carter, he didn't play the first series, and it was a coach's decision because apparently he was late for another meeting, so that's great. I think Dart was one of the few players that was trying last night. I think the guys on the offense were trying. It's just the defense. Shane Bowen's gone. It didn't really matter. It's just they looked worse. And I thought the Giants would be competitive last night. They were not. They were not. So that's where we're at with them. Patriots, they look good. You could look at them and say they're the best team in the NFL. I still think it's the Rams. MVP discussion. What happened with Matthew Stafford and Drake May this past weekend, I think now it tilts in Drake May's favor at this moment. He has looked very good. Patriots had a good offseason. And I said they'll definitely double their win total. I keep saying this. They will double their win total from last year. I still was like, maybe they'll be a year away. No. They're here right now, and they're going to be here to stay. Because they got the right coach, they got the quarterback, and they are only going to get better. Now, I don't know, could they go to the Super Bowl? They definitely could. They definitely could. Foxborough in January. You think teams are going to want to go play there again? I mean, look, it's not going to be Brady on the other side, but still, I mean, the atmosphere, all that, it's still good. It's going to be there. And Patriot fans, again, another fan base where it's been such a long time since they've been competitive, even though they basically ran the 2010s. They could be a problem again. They could be a problem again. So they are one of the best teams as well, and you got to give them props too. It's gonna be, the playoffs are gonna be fun because it's gonna be very tough to pick the games, because like I'm still riding with the Rams. That was my Super Bowl pick before the year started, but anybody can be beat. Anybody can be beat, and who knows? Maybe a seventh seed makes it all the way, or one of the wild card teams. Who knows? Who knows? And I find it interesting the way the playoffs are set up right now. And I think I brought this up on a previous show. The Bills are the 7th seed this year, and the Broncos are the 2 seed at the moment. And it was flipped last year. So the Bills now would have to travel to Denver and take on the Broncos. And I don't think the Bills are winning that. Maybe they do. If it happens, like nothing's finalized yet. But if that's the matchup, Denver's going to be favored. Denver is going to be favored. And the Broncos, like, to me, they're a good team. Their offense is very frustrating to watch because they have talent on that side of the ball. And I think Bo Nix is talented. But I'm not high on him right now. Now, when the Broncos need to, make plays in crunch time when the game is on the line, they make them. Like that overtime drive was good. That set up the R.J. Harvey touchdown. But like all throughout the game, it's ugly. It's ugly football. But that defense is very good. Although they struggled to stop Washington a little bit on Sunday, but the defense is very good. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting, but we'll see what happens. So, we kind of went around the league like we usually do. Who do you guys think is the best team in the NFL right now? Still going to take the Rams, but there's definitely some other candidates you could pick as well. Patriots, if you want to take the Broncos. I think the Seahawks are up there still. It's gonna be interesting. The Bears. How about the Bears? So yeah, it's gonna be an interesting finish, and we'll continue to cover it. So as always, everybody, make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the video, to the channel. Make sure to follow us on the social media platforms in the description below. And wherever you get your podcast, you can follow us as well. Just look up Infinite Sports. You'll find us there. And as always, everybody, I'm your host, Kenneth Gruenfelder, signing off. Have a good one. Talk to you guys next time. Take care.